What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? This is Campson, and from Remnant's Gathering, the creator of Remnant's Gathering and Campson's Window Seat. And this is just a place that I have created for people seeking truth and spiritual enlightenment to discuss topics, events that are happening in the world, and to be able to understand and decode things. So I'm gonna jump straight into it because I just put the baby to sleep. I'm up late. Everybody's sleeping in the house right now, so I thought it was a good time to do this. And but I want to go ahead and get into the meat of this before any interruptions occur, because of course my family comes first, and so I'll stop the video and do what I need to do. But I feel it's important to do this. So let me first by saying this: welcome, welcome, welcome. If this is your first time to my channel, thank you so much for jumping on live with me this late at night. I appreciate you. I wasn't going to do this yet because I have been spending time putting a video together to decode some of the things taking place right now with Kanye. And I couldn't fall asleep tonight. And, you know, I just kept feeling that it was important for me to go ahead and present the first installment to what I'm about to say. This may be one of the deepest breakdowns of decoding you have heard anyone do. And I always try to wait till some of the hype and stuff passes so that when I come to you all with something, when me and my husband present information, it's not information that you heard a whole bunch of other people say who are in the conscious community or the truther community. And so I wait so that if you hear me say something you haven't heard anyone else say before, then for me, that gives some validation as to the work and the research that we put in to present information to you that is not rhetoric that you can get from anywhere. So first, I'm going to start off by saying this. Hopefully you all can see this as I can. This is a picture of Kanye. And Kanye, a few years back, I can remember when I first started seeing him with a lot of ancient Egypt themed shows and videos. And I remember back then, of course, I was still in church. I was practicing Christianity at the time. And back then I was like, man, look at that. He started off with Jesus Walks in Hollywood and messed up another person. You know, look at him now. He's all into Egyptology. Oh my goodness, that's so demonic. That is so horrible and wicked. And this was my thought back then. Now I have matured and I have had years to study and I have had years to be humiliated by the things that I thought I knew that were correct. And so now that I look back, this is what's happening. Kanye West started off with Jesus Walks. Now, first, let's go to mythology, okay? You have Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, all through history. Every culture, every race, every continent has a form of mythology. But one similarity is that we see there's always a Christ in every story from every race of people. And so you have Christ, you have Krishna, you have Horus, and you have Heru. And the list goes on and on. Buddha was considered a Christ. There were many people considered to be a Christ or Messiah, someone whose presence here in this world helped us as a people, as humanity, to be able to rise above some of the things that have us enslaved and have our souls and minds entrapped. So Heru, if you're not into any Egyptology, Heru, first of all, these things that I'm about to present and explain to you, if you're new to this, these are not gods who are desiring to be worshipped. The names and the symbols used to describe these energies, they are energies. They are creative force, primordial force energies. And it would be the equivalent of gravity. And one culture may call gravity the heavy spirit or the snail, you know, whatever. And this is just them finding characteristics and similarities from things in the animal kingdom to compare it to this particular energy and the frequency of that energy and the capability of that energy. And so first, let me say that. So Heru, I'm going to give you all a little background on this. But Heru would be the equivalent to Jesus or Horus. And Heru actually went through a resurrection just as Jesus had to go through. And Heru's enemy was Set in ancient Egyptology. Now, as you can see with the picture here, that's a huge piece. First, let's start there. This is a very, very brave and bold move, especially when you have a huge fan base. A lot of them probably are Christians because that was the first introduction a lot of us had to Kanye with the Jesus Walks With Me. And that was really, really awesome for us. I was doing holy hip hop back then. I was like, man, this is incredible that this guy's talking about Jesus and they're actually playing this on the radio. I thought it was like a miracle, you know? And so that got my attention, and that's when I began to pay attention to Kanye West. Now, when he went into the Egyptology thing, he was going through a spiritual awakening. And of course, he's a protege with Jay-Z. Actually, I'm going to show you all in this picture. Jay-Z was right beside him. If you all can see that, he was with him as well. And so we know a little background with Jay-Z. We've seen him with the Aleister Crowley sweatshirt, Do As Thou Wilt. And because a lot of us, a lot of black people especially, have come from some form of religious traditions, we were like, man, that's demonic. That's so evil. These guys are just so wicked and evil for talking about these things or presenting these things to us. Oh, his wife is evil because she has a Baphomet ring on. Oh my goodness, so evil. And so what happens is when you judge something that you haven't studied to understand, yes, you're going to say that it's evil because you don't understand it. And I always tell people when I have conversations with people and they say, you know, well, I don't believe in ancient Egyptology. I don't believe in any of the spiritual practices of the occult. And the word occult simply means hidden, invisible, right? And so if you really look at it, a lot of the spiritual practices, even believe it in God and Jesus, these are invisible energies that we believe in. So occult just means invisible. It's just not something that we can see within our light spectrum. As simple as that. We don't have to complicate things. It is very simple. And so with all of that, you know, I thought he was lost, and I thought that the death of his mother was leading to these things. And so my point in saying this, whenever you go into a particular energy and you're going through a metamorphosis, that energy is going to manifest itself in your life. Okay. Now, here is a depiction of Heru. And this is the energy that Kanye West has obviously been resonating and identifying himself with. Again, remember, Heru is an older story that has many similarities to Jesus. So when he went from Jesus Walks to Heru, what we were seeing was a spiritual transformation of his growth to where the box he had been given of tradition, he stepped out of that box and he was able to find something much older than the stories of Jesus Christ, which led him to ancient Egypt. And we know that these stories and these origins are older than Christian origins and stories. And so Heru, he fights. He's all about fighting in battle, okay? And there's a never-ending battle. And what that energy does on this earth is he fights the battle for Ma'at. And Ma'at is the justice system, the spiritual justice system, which is where the 10 commandments come from. There are 42 laws of Ma'at. Now, depending on your research, you may find more or less. But the 10 commandments actually was inspired by, I'm not going to say plagiarized, it was inspired by Ma'at, the laws of Ma'at. And if that's new to you, you can look that up later. So Ma'at represents truth and justice and righteousness. Now, Ma'at is his mother, which is also Set, and her name is also Isis. Again, each age, each culture, we would change the names based on our language and our culture. But these are the same energies being depicted. Now, in this particular article, and you can go to this website on WordPress if you want to read the whole thing, but in this particular article, they're comparing the similarities between a lot of superheroes, such as Superman, and these ancient energies that were known about in ancient Egypt. Now, another thing that I feel is significant, Heru, he's considered an angel of God, or Amun, Ra, okay, called a netter in Egyptian theology. Right? And Superman's real name is called L. So again, we can just see the similarities and how a lot of the things, comic books and stories and even movies we grew up watching come from these things. Okay, now a little bit more information before I go into the breakdown. So with Alset and Heru, okay, and it's also known in Greek as Isis and Horus. It's known as Mary, Joseph, and Jesus in Christianity. If you want more detailed information about this, because I'm kind of just trying to give you a quick overview before I have the extensive video that I'm going to put out soon, just go to this video, Hidden History of the Nile, Religious Evolution and the Holy Trinity. It's an awesome, awesome video. And it's by Black Nine Films, and you can find this on YouTube, of course. So go check that out if you want to learn more. Again, these are energies that took place for the creation of the seen and unseen world we are existing in. These are not gods and deities who are demanding for us to bow down to them and worship them. And we as people, as humans, needed a way to understand and relate to these energies. Because most people aren't into physics and quantum physics and things of that nature, this is the easiest way to present these stories to people, to cultures. And so this is why we have names, animals, hybrid looking, where it's an animal face and a human body and things such as that nature. It's just describing the characteristics of these energies that help create everything that exists now. Okay, so with that being said, once he began tapping into that, I don't know if he bit off more than he can chew or not, but what happens, you're going to go through the same metamorphosis as the deity or the god or goddess energy in which you are emulating, okay? And so he was emulating this. This energy resonated with him to the point to get the neck piece made this big. He had a particular performance. I don't remember the year, but in the performance, the whole thing was Egyptian. It was huge. It was one of the most cinematic performances I had ever seen. It really could have been a movie. And, you know, this is the greatness and the courage that this man has to do this. You better believe he knows how most black people are going to feel about some of these things because they are controversial. And so we thought that he was just being a typical narcissist, when in fact, whether he was being a narcissist or not, we live in a narcissistic society. I mean, taking selfies is the epitome of being a narcissist. A lot of us have narcissistic traits if we be honest with ourselves. And so you have to step back sometimes from things. And instead of trying to observe the situation through your lens, through your filter, you have to step back and say, you know what, let me just be neutral in this. Let me not try to judge something I have not thoroughly studied and researched, and let me just observe. And it may be something in that you can learn that will help you in your own path to spiritual enlightenment. Now, as you can see here, this was from Power, which he did. And, you know, looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is bravery and courage, knowing you're going to get criticized, you know. And this takes a lot of bravery and courage. And so again, this is Heru. We can see the piece around his neck. I'm going to zoom in for you. And if you want to just break down what you're looking at right now, these are like the gates to heaven. This is the throne. Actually, him and Jay-Z did a whole Watch the Throne album and tour. And that's what they were trying to open people's minds to understand things outside of what tradition has given many of us in America. That's what this was all about. And so you see the swords here. You see the angel wings here. You kind of got an as above, so below type of thing happening as well. This is a portal. These are like fallen angels all around him. Everything that he does is methodical. He has the sword over his head, and we can compare the sword to the word of God. We also know that there's a flaming sword that was placed in the Garden of Eden in front of the tree of knowledge, tree of life, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil had been partaken of. And so here he has this sword above his head and a halo. So if you're into art or things like that, you can decode this father. It's so much in this one picture that he was communicating, but it does take courage to do these things. And I'm gonna give you a few more Greek, I'm sorry, Egyptian understanding of these things. Greek is actually, the Bible is mostly filled with a lot of Greek ways of understanding and Greek words, especially the New Testament. But I'm going to give you the Egyptian background, and then I'm going to explain to you why he is doing what he is doing. Now, do you all remember this? I'm not sure if you all been keeping up, but he had a particular video. This was before the quote unquote breakdown that he had. And in the video, he had this scene here, and a lot of people were confused about it. Even myself, I was like, is he just depicting hybrids? I mean, he did a video showing clones of Donald Trump, Kim Kardashian, Taylor Swift. You remember that video? And they were all laying in the bed and everything. And that kind of caused a, uproar as well. So I was like, maybe he's showing us hybrids, that though these things are real and they exist. Now that I look back, because of my own personal experiences, I understand what is being depicted here. What we are looking at here is another version of the Holy Trinity, where there's a father, a mother, and a son. That's one thing we're looking at. The second thing we're looking at the black male-female archetype, the black family, and the child, okay? The third thing we're looking at, the symbol of the Ankh, is the womb and the penis and the offspring. That's what the symbol of the Ankh stands for. We're looking at the Ankh as well. This is the cycle of life. This is the womb, the penis, and the offspring represented here. The next level, and this is how methodical he is, the next level of this, we're seeing the sheep, right? And so you can automatically see that there's a similarity between sheep, and we know sheep all throughout scripture in the Bible, how they're depicted and what sheep mean, and sheep need a shepherd. And so he's given us a visual of, yes, you are sheep, but you are also powerful. And this is a resurrection of the image of the black family. I believe some of the intentions behind this, even though he's not married to a black woman, okay, I believe some of the things behind this was for us to see, because usually when you see a black father, mother, and child, they're either on a reality TV show and it's a really horrible message being presented, and it just gives us this really, really bad reason for these stereotypes about the black family to live on. These are usually the circumstances you see a black family. And I think it's really beautiful that we were able to see this in just such a honest way. There's a resurrection happening in the black community, in the melanated community, in the conscious community. We have been asleep. We have been lullabied to sleep by so many other entities, beings, so many other councils, the Council of 33, the Council of 13, the elites, Illuminati, the investment bankers, the Merovingians who took over royalty in Europe, which were black people. Like, all of these things have happened. And because the age of Pisces has passed and we are entering to the age of Aquarius, we are going through a spiritual awakening. In the Bible, it calls it knowledge will abound much, right? In the last days, sons and daughters, and it talks about how they would dream dreams and have visions and prophesy. And so we're seeing the manifestation on that. And it doesn't matter what religion, what book, what mythology you throw at me, these characteristics are similar throughout all of them. And that's something that's undeniable. The last thing that was huge for me with this image, I began meditating probably 2.5, 3 years ago. My husband and I, my family, we began eating a clean diet based on the book of Leviticus at the time. And so in doing that, it allows the spiritual awakening to just be a much better experience, and it aids you in being able to break through the matrix, to see through the illusion, to be able to read something and understand the hidden symbolism in what you're reading. And so because of the way we are eating, because of the way we are teaching our children to love, a lot of these things have given us access to higher spiritual understanding. And we know without understanding and lack of knowledge, we perish. And so in that, I began meditating. In one of my first meditations, a cat, it looked like a black panther to me, very piercing human-like eyes to me. And this panther presented itself to me in a meditation, and it was kind of like a dream, except I was woke, and it was intentional that I was meditating and learning how to be in pure silence, right? And just control my thoughts and allow my spirit and my soul and my mind to become one. And this is a really great thing to do if you haven't started meditating yet. I highly recommend meditating. And in this meditation, this Black Panther presented itself to me. And as you all know, because of my illness that I was born with, sickle cell anemia, I have experienced a lot of just hatred. I've experienced a lot of negligence and abuse from people, from physicians, from nurses, from surgeons. I've had a lot of terrible experiences. I've had near-death experiences that could have been avoided, but because the medical profession, you know, is just set up a certain way where they're not really there to heal you. And so sometimes they're not listening. And so with that being said, I went through all of this and just in me trying to understand my path, you know, why there's a reason for everything. Why did I go through those things? And so in this meditation, that was my intention before I began meditating, to understand some of the things that had happened in my life and to be able to process what can I take from this to give to other people where it's going to be a blessing for them and help them get free of the things that has them bound, yoked, and anchored, where they cannot be their best selves, where they are unable to even understand their purpose in life. You know, it's so many things we have to help each other with. We were not put here for ourselves. We were put here for other people. And so with that intention in that meditation, it was pure. And I believe because of the purity of the intention, because of the fervence of the meditation, I was able to get a breakthrough. And I didn't know a name or anything, but this Black Panther, I said, you know, I've been through a lot. I'm dealing with injustice. Our people as a whole are dealing with injustice. The whole world is, but right now I want to deal with melanated people because the awakening for us, our culture, our language, everything was taken away from us, and we're having to figure it out and go back to our roots. So I kind of want to address that because I know everyone that's on my channel isn't of African American descent, Native American, or any other melanated races, and that's okay, you know. But I want to address that because our community is in need of this right now. And so I said, what can I do? I don't want to just help myself. I don't want to just heal myself. I want to be able to help other people. What can I do? Help me understand. I need guidance. And she said to me, you know, it got straight to the point. She was just like, well, I came to you because of the injustice, because of the negligence, the mistreatment, and the abuse. And I also am an energy that assists people in healing themselves. And that was just so huge to me. I couldn't believe it was happening. I was like, oh my goodness. And it was telepathic. Of course, the Black Panther wasn't talking, chewing bubble gum, and you know, it was just, I could just feel the heart of what was happening in this meditation. And it's just like when you hear a voice and there's no one speaking to you, but you can hear that voice and you feel that voice. It was exactly like that. And so I said, you know, to her, well, I'm battling right now with the medical, with a lot of the things that are happening in the medical field, and it's impacting us spiritually and physically. And she was just like, well, I also bring war when there is chaos and injustice, and I help to put things back in order. So I was like, wow, okay. And so, you know, so I came out of the meditation, I wrote everything down. I had no idea what was happening. Black Panther came out 3 days later. Went to see Black Panther, and if you watch my Decoded on Black Panther, you'll know. I went to see that, and I was amazed because exactly the scene in my meditation was in Black Panther. So when I got home, I said, let me look up this Black Panther thing, and that's when I learned about Sekhmet, Sekhmet, Sekhmet. And Sekhmet is basically a feline cat goddess, but it has a body of a woman. And Sekhmet is an energy that's called upon when there is injustice, when innocent children, women, and men are being slaughtered and murdered, and just a lot of terrible things that have happened. This particular energy rises up when this is happening, and this energy gives strength to people. This energy helps to restore justice for people who are considered the small people, the people in poverty, the people who don't have power, the people who maybe don't have the finances and resources to be able to change the world. This is an energy that exists to assist people in those situations. And this energy also is the energy that assists people who are going through self-healing, whether it's physical or emotional or mental. You may just be seeking healing for your bloodline because you see a lot of issues in your bloodline. And so, again, this is not a deity. This isn't something that was demanding me to bow down and worship. This wasn't something saying you have to give me a blood sacrifice. It was none of that. You know, it was just, this is my energy and this is what I do for humanity. And so I was just amazed to learn about Sekhmet. Then that's when Fame came out. Like this was kind of like within a year of each other, all of these things taking place. And when I saw her, I said, "Oh my goodness, he wasn't showing us hybrids. This is Sekhmet." Some cultures and some names call her Basset or Bast, and this is who Halle Berry was depicting in the movie Catwoman. This is who what is her name? The very Arthur Kitt. Arthur Kitt. This is who she depicted. And so this is the energy that has been depicted in Hollywood for many years, even Catwoman with Batman and all of that. And so that's what this is. Now, let me go here and show you all something else. This is a picture of Basset or Sekhmet. Now, the difference between Basset and Sekhmet, one was kind of an Upper Egypt, Northern Egypt thing, and one was kind of the understanding and names of the Southern Egypt. This is the difference between Basset, Bast, and Sekhmet. And Sekhmet, as you can see, this statue here is very, very beautiful, very, very powerful, just seeing these images. And if you understand or in the animal kingdom, then you can see this and know that a lioness is very powerful. So it makes sense. If this is a energy that assists, it has to have power, right? And so you can see here why these particular animals were used to depict this energy. Now with the sun disk, that is a sun disk over her head, and even Jesus Christ himself in all old pictures and stuff, you see the sun disk around his head. Now with the serpent of the cobra there, for those of you all who are still practicing religion, Christianity, Hebrew Israelite, or whichever one it is that you're in right now, we thought the serpent was just evil, 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 nothing good about it. However, Moses did great things with the energy of the serpent that he had in the form of a staff. And this serpent actually came to life for him when he was before Pharaoh and his magicians. And so you have to wonder, okay, the serpent is evil in the Garden of Eden, yet the serpent is used in assistance to help free our people. That can be a little confusing. And so this goes back to, you have to study from a neutral standpoint and you will come to understand things. But you have to be open to understanding. If you go into anything, it's just like school. If you're in 5th grade and you go into 12th grade, right? And you're still filtering everything through what you learn in 5th grade, you're going to disagree, reject, and not understand anything presented to you in the 12th grade. And that's exactly what this is like. So I had to take a step back and study the serpent, and it led me to, it's just an energy. Once again, it's an energy. And one word, if you want to do some research on this and use a word outside of serpent that will lead you to a lot of truth and not the typical rhetoric that's used by the people that are in control of the matrix to control our consciousness and control our spiritual beliefs, use the word Nagas, Nagas, nagas. And the serpent represents knowledge and wisdom is what it represents. Okay. And this is why in the Garden of Eden, if you remember, it was a serpent that in which Eve bit into the apple seeking knowledge of good and evil, right? Through the serpent. So the serpent represents knowledge of what you would consider light, dark, good and positive, yin and yang, whatever you want to call it, duality. And this is just knowledge and wisdom about both things, both energies. And so also in this picture, you see the Ankh in her hand. And again, I explained the Ankh represents life. It is the womb. And see, the issue with the cross is on the cross, the womb from the top of the cross was removed. And you have nothing but the phallus and the offspring. That's an issue there. Family must take place with mother and father. We need a feminine and masculine energy, positive and negative. We need an X and a Y energy to produce offspring. And that's one of the issues with Christianity. And I also believe that's why families who practice Christianity have a really hard time staying together. And if you know someone who happen to be Christians and they've been married 15 plus years, it's a rare thing. It's like a miracle. You don't know a whole lot of people like that. And I believe removing the womb and giving a symbol for Christianity that removed the feminine energy of creation and presented just the masculine energy is how we ended up in a lot of the issues that we have now, because we're living in a very male-driven society, from politics to the White House. That's why it hasn't been a female president. We're living in a very male-oriented society, but the cultures of old and ancient was usually a feminine or female that ruled the land. And even in the Bible, we have Queen Sheba, Queen Esther. And so women have done very, very great things. There are a lot of women we don't even know about the great things that they have done because with the story of Adam and Eve, they took the primordial energy of creation, which was feminine in nature, and they made it evil by saying Eve, she was the issue. She started the problem. If Eve would have just been chilling with Adam and, left it alone, we would have been fine. And so in doing this demonizes the feminine energy. This demonizes the woman. And that's an issue there. And we know that women are very nurturing. We know that women are usually more intuitive. We know that women usually use more of the right brain, whereas men use the left brain and they're more logical. And so there is an order to family, life, and creation, and Ankh represents that order. And so we're in chaos right now, and order is being restored. And so this is what Kanye is doing. Now, let me get into, just give me 1 second here. Beautiful. I want to put up some more stuff for you all to look at while I talk. In case you all forgot the name of the video, here it is. So what we're dealing with here, Kanye and his support of Trump. Now that I've broke down what's happening with him, see, that's why Kanye had to go through the nervous breakdown thing. And a lot of people saying that he was lobotomized while he was in the hospital. I want to say 8 days, but it seemed he was in there much longer than that. But while he was in there, he went through some torture, some mind programming, mind control with medications and trauma and all these things. And all of that may be very well true. However, when he began tapping into the energy of Heru, a resurrection has to happen. But in order for a resurrection to happen, a death has to take place as well. And so in losing his mother, Kanye has been through some really traumatic things. And I know some people say, well, losing his mother, we ain't got no feelings for him about that because that was his fault. He got into the music industry and he gave us a blood sacrifice. Well, that's easy to say when you're on the outside looking in. And just from the love that he expressed for his mother and listening to the stories of his childhood friends who knew his mother, she's like a very, very loving, powerful woman. And I don't think his intention was for any harm to come to her. I believe the powers that be are really good at hiding things from us until we get to a certain level. So after those things took place, and once he got to the level of enlightenment and understanding of how the system actually works in the music industry and beyond, that's when he began going into a downward spiral because he was heartbroken. And he talked about in one of his freestyles how, they basically gave him a Happy Meal and a toy, and it was a crappy deal. It's like selling your soul and wasn't worth it. And he misses his mom. And so during the time of the breakdown, this was around the time that he had lost his mother. So you got all of those things taking place. With that being said, Kanye is, now that he has went through his death, he has went to the abyss. He has went to Hades, hell, so to speak. And I'm sure you have been through some very dark times in your own life. And those times would be equivalent to going to Hades or hell or the underworld or the abyss, just darkness where you felt alone. You felt no one understood what you were going through. And sometimes that darkness can consume you. And Kanye came out on the other side of this because he tapped into the energy of Heru. I believe that this is a resurrection manifesting in him, where not only is he getting his memory back, because his childhood best friend said that he had lost his memory. When he first got out of the hospital, he would just play with G.I. Joes, and he was very childlike minded, and he could not remember a lot of things. So now that he is getting back to himself, he put himself out there publicly. He knew that he would be ostracized and criticized. That's not new for him. But he is playing chess. He is methodical. He thinks everything through before he does it. I know it seems like he doesn't, but you all must remember that the media is a medium, and the power behind the media is a medium that is not for the people. Okay, it is used to poison our minds and to put propaganda in front of us, to program the subconscious, where you don't even have a clue that you have been mind controlled, that some type of hex or spell has been cast over you. The whole English language is spell casting, cursive, cursing, spelling. The whole English language was constructed on a lot of these principles. And because a lot of us were born into tradition, we are trying to understand things taking place in the world through the filter of the tradition, usually of our religious beliefs. And that cuts you off from being able to see the full picture and from being able to see through what's on the surface. Now, I'm going to read to you all something I jotted down. Y'all, of course, y'all gonna let me know how y'all feel about it. But I believe 100% that what I'm saying is accurate. And I'm gonna say this. The reason I say that is because before any of this took place, about 3 or 4 months ago, I kept feeling his spirit. I was literally praying for this man. I was praying. I have been put into the psych ward before. I had a period when I was homeless and I went into a very deep depression, a lot of darkness. And of course, my illness flared up really bad at that time. And during that hospitalization, they felt as if that's what I needed. And so I ended up in the psych ward. And that's hard. If you have never been through it or have a loved one who's been through it, you wouldn't understand. But it's hard. It was hard. That was some of the hardest stuff that I ever experienced. And I can only imagine what this man is experiencing, what he has gone through. So I'm going to get into reading this to you all. And if you all just give me a minute, let me just stream this information to you all. I'm not going to stop and explain anything. I'm going to read it exactly the way I wrote it. And for those of you who this resonates with, I love to hear from you in the comment section. Let me know what you think about what I'm about to say. Okay, so bear with me. I know it's late, but bear with me. I hope y'all getting some stuff y'all hadn't heard anybody else say. I hope this is beneficial to you all. But this is something that I wrote last year. And this is when the election and stuff had taken place, and I was first coming into a deeper understanding of spiritual things. And this is what I said. Kanye mind control. Kanye said that racism isn't a thing anymore. But in 2005, he said Bush hates black people. and that in the Hurricane Katrina, he had given an order to shoot them. Jay-Z is his apprentice, or maybe the other way around. But Kanye definitely was initiated into occult teachings through Jay-Z. That's for sure. So Jay-Z was representing Hillary at the time to become president. Y'all remember that? And so now we have Kanye on the other side of that, and he's kind of supporting Trump. Now, everything that happens in the natural realm is a manifestation of what's happening in the spiritual, supernatural, metaphysical, unseen realm. And what we are seeing play out over and over again is the villain and the superhero, Cain and the Abel, Set and Heru. We're seeing that over and over again. And so Tupac and Biggie, the East versus the West, the Bloods versus the Crips. Like, this is the Democrats and the Republicans. This whole world is established on very simple systems once you begin to understand these things. And so it made sense that Kanye in his rant talked about his support of Trump. Now, this is a war of power and philosophy. I did a video where a revelation came to me that rappers are the philosophers of this time, whereas Constantine, even Paul, Apostle Paul, people of that nature throughout history, these people were philosophical, and they were the philosophers of this time. Now, the spirits behind them have their own agenda to fulfill. And I asked the question, what do you think the real agenda is behind some of the things unfolding? I said also, Kanye was reprogrammed to preach acceptance of Trump and his administration. Him and Jay-Z are the representatives of duality, which is worshiped by the elites. Now, let me put this back up here because I want you all to be able to see the whole image here. Here we go. Okay, there we go. And you all can see the yin and yang, the duality here with the red and the black. It's kind of like an opposite play on thing. And they're always doing this. They're really smart men, not just smart businessmen, but spiritually esoteric teachings of Dr. York. I know Jay-Z, Prodigy, the rapper, he talked about the teachings of Dr. York and how a lot of rappers from New York and up in that area, they have been studying consciousness, the occult, James Smalls, Walter Williams, Bobby Hemmett, Phil Valentine, Dick Gregory, Delbert Blair. These are some names. A lot of this stuff is new to us and maybe a lot of people down here in the South, but these things were not new to them. Okay. Now, I said from that point, I said, you know, some prophetic things will unfold. And so when he did the rant, I did a video, and in that video, a lot of very prophetic revelations did come forward. So go back and check that video out whenever you get time. Now, Kanye showed us clones in his video. That's a big no-no. Kanye spoke against Taylor Swift, and she's kind of like the snow bunny, cave Becky goddess, you know, of the music industry. And he spoke against her and took up for Beyonce. And these things are a no-no. But that was a ritual taking place. Humiliation has to happen whenever someone is initiated. And Taylor Swift was initiated as a result of that. So again, we have Kanye. This man is just bold and courageous. Some of you would probably say he's just stupid, and I wouldn't have done that if I was him. And if that was the only way for me to be initiated, I would have said, forget it. I mean, it's easier said than done. But again, we got to stop judging people's decisions and their behavior through a lens, and we're not seeing the whole picture. You can't be a spiritual person. A wise man knows that he knows nothing, and he's continuing to learn and grow. When you get to the point that you feel what you know is the all that end all, and there is nothing else, you have become foolish. And a foolish man is a very difficult man to teach. Matter of fact, it's impossible to teach a foolish man. So what was happening was we were just seeing some manifestations, and he was letting us know clones, that's a real thing, you know, that happens, and they're doing this. They've been doing this. And if someone want to research that, Boys from Brazil is a really good movie to understand how clones are made, the difference between them and synthetics. There are a lot of different things, soulless individuals. This is why the AI is such a big deal right now. So if you want to check out Boys from Brazil to get a deeper understanding of that as well. truth is in movies a lot of the times. That's the best way to find truth, is in movies, because they know most people think it's entertainment and they're not watching it to study and understand. Now, one of the revelations I got was Kanye was used to incite racism. He was also called good old boy by Trump, right? That offended me. I remember that like yesterday. And so we are kind of heading back to slavery in a new form, but it's an updated version where the use of things like chips, implants, RFID, nanoparticles, chemtrails, fluoride in the food to calcify the pineal gland, vaccines, the healthcare system. All of these things are construct of enslavement of our consciousness, so that we will forever go in these circles and never really truly come to understand things that have been hidden from us. And so I had a vision. It's called a totalitarian government vision. If you want to check that out as well, it's going to give you a lot of information that I'm talking about here. Also, the elites, the investment bankers of the world, the people who really make the decisions in the world and kind of control the masses, they needed proof that Kanye would not be a problem during the Trump administration like he was during the Bush administration. Okay. And so some of the things that were happening in the background of this was a way to just make sure that we don't have another situation like that. Because when Kanye West did that on live TV, if you all remember, do you remember Mike Myers, I think his name, and Chris Tucker? Do you remember their expression on their face when he started saying that? Now, to me, that's a very brave person. And it's like, you know what? I was given a script, but I'm not doing that script. People need to hear the truth. So I feel like we need to see the positive things that this man has done for us in the past. And he seems to have a really good heart. He may be misguided. He may do things in a way that a lot of people don't like. He may be like sandpaper. Sometimes we need sandpaper, y'all, to perfect us, smooth us out. We do. And he happens to be really good at being sandpaper. But that's not always a bad thing. Now, he told us about a very top secret order at the time with the Bush administration shooting black people. For me, that was the first time I had even heard a mode of thought like that. At that time, I knew Hurricane Katrina would be used for population control, but I didn't know that it was just this huge shadow government situation happening, and that the black people were the target of that. I had not come to the full understanding of that at that time. So it was because of Kanye that I got into the truther movement. It was because of him at the time. And, and I started doing some research on conspiracies and genocide, Mafia 21, melanin theft, organ theft on the black market. His statement led a lot of us to research some things. Now, again, I said, most black people, they think that our minds and our consciousness, they think that we are incapable of true intelligence and enlightenment. I'm being honest with y'all. Like, the people who rule this world, they have a lot of negative thoughts about us. They think that we are pure savages and that we are incapable of doing good. This is really what they feel. And the population of prison proves that. You can just look at the population of prison. Black people aren't the only people who break laws, yet we take up most of the prison industrial complex. And Tupac tried to tell us about this too. It's another individual who manifested himself as Heru, or Christ. That's why Tupac depicted himself hanging on the cross. These people have been trying to tell us, look, black man, you are something special. You are something great. You are not just a slave. You are not just what you told you were. You do hold power in your anatomical buildup, in your strength, and your ability to have rhythm. We are a very spiritual people. And being an ancestor of an Aboriginal, some of the first people placed on this earth, yes, there is going to be some things different about us than other cultures. Every culture has something that's great about them, I'm sure. But as I said, I'm addressing us right now because most of the genocide and population control that's taking place is against us. Okay? So Kanye is playing chess and not checkers. He letting people think he playing checkers, but he's playing chess. He is in support of Trump. Now, the reason why I believe that he is doing this is because, again, we need irritation sometimes. Anger, frustration, irritation, not understanding why people do the crazy shit they do, even in your own personal life, that leads you to search for truth. That leads you, even with your own self. Sometimes I make decisions and I be like, why did I do that? And so that leads me to say, you know what? Let me check out the man in the mirror. Let me go within myself. Let me research and understand myself. Do I have memories from my past that are forgotten because they were traumatic? You know what I'm saying? Let me deal with that. Am I a selfish person? Am I an arrogant person? Am I a mean person? You have to go within and search yourself out. And the only way, if you're still hanging on to a lot of the teachings of religion, then you know that you are a little God and you were made in the image of God. And so how can you be in a relationship with God if you don't know thyself? If your body is the kingdom of heaven, if you have the mind of Christ, we have all of these things we were given to let us know who we are. And so in your effort to get to know the source, the Most High, the creation of all things, you have to know thyself. You have to. And so I think that it is really smart of Kanye to say, you know what? We don't need a Marcus Garvey right now. We don't need another Nat Turner right now. What we need, we don't even need a Martin Luther King right now. We don't need a Malcolm X right now. What is it I can do that will just shake people enough to begin to do some research, or even just to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing? He because of the platform that he has and have been given, to much is given, much is required. And I think that he is aware of this. And it makes total sense to me. Instead of going against the person who's running the country, he's like, you know what? I don't support everything he do. I don't agree with everything he do. But as a businessman, I respect him. He has been successful. His blueprint does work. And sometimes you can find characteristics in an individual who you are not in agreement with and say, you know what? I disagree with this person. I'm not even really feeling them. But you know what? She's a really good cook. I can't stand my auntie or whatever. She keep up drama, but she a good cook. So guess what? When you around, what you go do? You go pay attention, and you probably even get in the kitchen and assist her and help her because you want to learn. And so I believe that that is one of the reasons he's in support of Trump. But again, we're comfortable. Y'all, over here in America, we are spoiled and we are comfortable. And a lot of us, whatever our modality of belief system is, we do not want anybody to poke us and press us to see things from any other perspective than the one we have chose to be right. And that's the problem, y'all. That's the issue. Sometimes you need some irritation. Sometimes you need something that's baffling to happen to you in order for you to find yourself, in order for you to figure out how you fit into this whole thing that we call life and your purpose. That's necessary. You can't get a pearl without the irritation inside the clam. You can't get a diamond without the pressure of the earth. The most precious things are created through these things that frustrate, irritate, anger, and confuse us. That is true spiritual alchemy. That is true transformation that must take place. Now, let me skip down just a little bit. Now, I watched the video by Red Pill, and I'm giving y'all way more than I said I was, because all of this was supposed to be in the video I'm putting together, but whatever. I need to get this out. I watched a video by Red Pill. He's in the conscious community. If you've never heard of him before, I just love him and his brother and his mom. They're awesome. They have been a big help for me in research and understanding. I can get a lot of sources from them. But I kind of disagree with some of the things he was saying. And so this is what I wrote down. And I hope that these revelations speak to some of you as well. Kanye murdered Jesus, and he replaced himself, calling himself Jesus. He depicted the Last Supper with in the Last Supper, there were very bougie, judgmental black people who were dressed like people do on Sunday in their Sunday's best, look like church people, church folks. And there was a falling angel in the video who happened to be black. Okay. And so I'm saying that to say this is him tearing down some of the belief systems and saying, y'all, look, it wasn't accurate. I'm going to give you all an older origin of this Christ consciousness, this Messiah, this one who was willing to battle for the sake of a people, that is willing to be whipped and beat, right? Tortured. But his heart's desire is to help oppressed people. He was saying, instead of me giving you Jesus walks, I'm going to give you Heru. I'm going to show you the Last Supper, and I'm going to let you see how the majority of people who are in church, how arrogant, spiritually prideful, judgmental, bougie they are. I'm talking about myself. I definitely, and knowing myself, I learned some really ugly things about myself that were programmed in me through my religious practices. So I know some of you, that's probably rubbing you the wrong way, but it is what it is. And if that doesn't resonate with you or speak to you and you don't accept it, that's okay. Do your own research and you come to your own conclusions. I'm just here to help people to break out of the matrix and the programming and maybe see things from a perspective and an angle you never thought before. The next thing that I said was he began to channel the energy of Heru. This man took on George Bush publicly and told us they were shooting our people during Hurricane Katrina. This man is methodical, but he is equally oppressed and constantly being compromised on more levels than we can fathom. Now, y'all, we don't know the struggles. We know his wife, Kim, she got robbed. You know, we know that happened. That's scary. It don't matter. All the conspiracies centered around it. It's still scary. And you can clearly see that it did have an impact on her. This man lost his mother. This man, he had his own near-death experience before the breakdown and everything, with the horrible wreck that he had. And they said that he wouldn't even pull through. He would never talk again. And he became a rapper and one of the greatest producers ever. You know, that's awesome. That's a powerful thing that he was able to do from his struggles and his own darkness. And he was able to rise above it. And so you don't think these people, the elites and the investment bankers, are pissed with him? I'm sure the Bush family is still pissed with him. But that's brave as hell to be like, you know what? Yeah, these families are powerful. Yeah. But you know what? I'm gonna be me and I'm gonna stay true to myself. And this is where I am right now. And I'm not gonna hide that. This is how I feel. And it's nothing wrong with us expressing how we feel. Even if what you feel is probably going to go against what most of the people in your circle of influence feel, by you not expressing that, you're suppressing your own spiritual path. You're suppressing who you need to become by not being honest about how you feel and where you are in that moment. That's not healthy. That's not healthy. And that's not wisdom. We have to learn whatever it is that resonates with you and wherever you are, you have to be able to live that, be that, and express that. Even if 5-10 years later, your whole stance and perspective changes, that's okay. You're growing. You're testing yourself. You're pushing your limits, and you're willing to be ostracized and criticized by people by walking in honesty of what's honest for you. That's a lesson all of us can learn. So I decided because of that, because of, you know, he did the fashion show and he had them dressed like slaves and he was 45 minutes late to the fashion show. And you all remember they made a really big deal about that. He went to perform, I think it was the Black Skinhead video he performed on SNL. And in the process of him getting dressed to go out and perform, they went and took down his whole stage and he was upset about it, rightfully so. Someone secretly recorded him expressing his frustration about them doing this and not running anything past him, it's really hard to put these shows together. I can understand that frustration. And so that was leaked out, right? And this was back in March of 2016. And even when that happened, before his breakdown, and every single media outlet and every news that talked about this, they were using these words. Kanye West had another breakdown. Kanye West had another meltdown. Kanye West has another rant. And so this is magic. This is metaphysics. This is energy. This is the law of attraction. The media uses this to manifest things. Everybody knows, even in the Bible, we speak the power of life and death in our words. And so in order to create something, you have to speak those words, and it will change the atmosphere based on what you're saying, what you're speaking. Even the Bible says a man thinketh, so is he. And so the media uses these things to manifest the outcome of the people who rule this world and what they desire. And so this was them divining against this man then. And if you don't believe what I'm saying is true, do your own research and come to your own conclusions. I'm not trying to force anything on anyone. My intentions are pure here. Now, after all of this happened, I said, I'm just going to send energy, love, energy, and peace to this man. He's still a man. He's not perfect. We're not perfect. But instead of me just tearing this man apart and doing a bunch of videos and talking bad about him, I was like, you know what? I really don't know what he's going through. I don't know what it feels like to lose my mom in that kind of situation. And so as the person I am, and as the loving, powerful person who desires to be able to be of help to people, I decided to just send energy to assist him in his spiritual transformation that was taking place, because I knew he was being tortured, traumatized, and ostracized by the world. Most of us can't even deal with two people in our family thinking that we didn't fell into a cult or some Satan worship, So it's just like, if we struggle with feeling the negative impact of what people think about us in our spiritual transformation, imagine when the whole world, when you have to wake up every morning, your phone going off constantly, your manager's calling you, your wife telling you this happened, that happened. That's a lot of burden. That's a heavy weight to carry for anybody. And I really don't even see how some of these people sleep at night, especially when you know you're going against the grain. When you know that what you're doing, people ain't going to agree with it, and you do it anyway, that's courage. That takes courage. That takes more courage than a lot of us have. A lot of us don't have enough courage to speak our truth publicly because we're afraid how the people we care about are going to feel about it. Let's be real with ourselves, y'all. It's time to be real with ourselves. And so another thing that I wrote down, he's really good at pretending to be the dumb fox. And that's a wise move. You don't always let the left hand know what the right hand doing. He's not letting everybody know what he knows. And I think that's wisdom to do that. Now, during his breakdown, this was a form of death that happened to him. And the energy of Heru is helping him in this resurrection we're seeing happen after he was tortured, right? Torture we can't even comprehend. Now, I ain't going to say much more. I need to say some of the stuff for the video I'm putting together. Then I'm decoding things in a deeper format. But his humanity is dying. His ego is dying. And I've experienced that myself. That was humbling and humiliating at the same time. After the supposed rant, he was dragged off the stage at gunpoint, y'all. Did y'all forget about that? He was dragged off a stage at gunpoint. And in his interview with Charlemagne the God, he said one of the biggest things, the most terrible thing that put so much fear in him was to see people that he trusts and love, who love him for him. And when this happened, when they took him at gunpoint, he said, look, whatever happens, y'all, please don't leave my side. He said after they took him off the stage, took him at gunpoint, there was a certain point once they got to the hospital where they did not allow anyone to come into the room with him. And he was alone. He was alone with complete strangers. And he said in that moment, getting on that elevator. He said, I thought that I was going to die. I thought that they were going to kill me. And y'all might not have no sympathy towards this man expressing that, but I do. And I have been in a very similar situation. And it is something that puts fear in you to a level that you can't even wrap your mind around. It truly is. But I'm thankful for the darkness and the things that I went through, because it's giving me the power. It's giving me the love, the understanding, and just the desire to not be judgmental about people, see them where they are, and just be positive energy, come alongside people and be supportive. So I'm thankful for that. And you all should be thankful for some of your darkest times as well. But his humanity died. His ego died. And this is necessary for us as a people to raise up. Our humanity has to die. Our ego has to die. Our pride has to die. And sometimes the only way that these things are burned off of you in the furnace of fire so that you come out better, a better you, perfected his goal, is trials and tribulation. Now, Bobby Hemmett, he explains how the process of life after death happens. And he talks about putrefaction. He talks about the reason as we age and the body begins to deteriorate, because that's necessary for us to go to the next phase of our existence. And you all should know by now, we are immortal. The soul is immortal. And so when you leave your vehicle, when you leave your body, this isn't the ending for you. It's actually the beginning of a whole new stage of your existence. And that's what Bobby Hemmett means when he talks about death by putrefaction. Even the story of Christ himself, after being tortured to death, he had to do what? He had to go descend to Hades, right? Before he could ascend, he had to descend. And we have saw this really publicly, Kanye West descend to a very low, dark place. Now, I believe we should send positive energy to this man. I believe that the outcome of what he's doing is going to have an impact on the conscious community that probably nobody is expecting to happen. I believe that. And we need to stop being so judgmental and so quick to judge based on what we think we know. And sometimes just take a step back and be like, you know what? I choose to operate in compassion. Just across the whole board, I'm operating in compassion. That right there alone is going to help you become the person you were created to be and fulfill your purpose in life. And as I said, a wise man knows that he's still learning and he knows nothing. We need new streams of consciousness. We need ways of thinking that are revolutionary in order to reach the levels as gods and goddesses. And if you're uncomfortable with me talking about gods and goddesses, I just mean the best you that you can be. I mean your higher self. The higher self, that voice that says, you know what, you probably should not stay in a relationship with this person because it may be to the detriment of you. That voice that says, you know what, you shouldn't get in the car with this person, and then a bad car accident happened. That is your higher self. That is your intuitive self, your intuition, giving you guidance and speaking to you. And so when I mean reach the levels of gods and goddesses, this is what I mean. I mean becoming accountable for the world and the reality that you are living in. Being a god and a goddess means you are accountable for everything you think and you do, and you accept that accountability. And when you make mistakes, you learn from them, and you try to use your life and your experiences as lessons to teach and help other people. That's what I mean when I say that. And becoming gods is all through scripture as well, for those of you who that's where you are right now in your consciousness. Now, the war that is happening is real, and he is in the eye of the storm. If I'm right about anything that I'm saying, it's going to eventually manifest in the natural realm. So let's just wait and watch and see. Y'all going to be surprised at how the revolution is going to take place and how our ascension out of the matrix of we've been controlled in more ways than we can even really understand right now. I'm still coming to understand how I have been deceived and controlled from the moment that I was born to today. Love is always more powerful than the elites who make the decisions and the laws and prosecute. And they decide who's righteous and who's not, who's innocent and who's not. But love is more powerful than the energy of hate. Now, Trump can and will be dealt with by our ancestors and the energies entering this age of Aquarius. And when I say that, I mean your ancestors, that blood is in you. And we have to remember, because the soul is immortal, even though they left the body, they still have an existence. And so for anyone, not just Trump, but anybody who is doing harm, intentional harm to people or persons, or even themselves, there is a reaping and sowing. There is a karma. There is a judicial system on a cosmic level. Okay. And so now that we have entered the age of Aquarius, we're being set free. And we're being able to understand things spiritually and receive new information that wasn't available to the generations before us. So you better believe it. Your ancestors, they may not be here walking around, but they still exist. They are still alive, just not in a physical body. And I do believe in retribution. I do believe that because the soul is immortal, I do believe that even after you leave, you can still have an impact, influence, and connection with things in the world, in the physical realm. It may be something just like unfinished business. Our ancestors may have died before slavery was abolished, even though it wasn't really abolished. It just they morphed it into something else. But anyway, it's a whole other video. And after you leave your body, to me, if the soul is immortal and you continue to live, you can say, you know what? I'm going to just act as a support to my children and my children's children. And even in Christianity, we are taught about the immortality of the soul. We are taught to learn from the life experiences of what we were told were our ancestors from the Old Testament. We were taught to use their lives as guidance for us. So what I'm saying is really not that far out. So this is a prison break plan that he's doing. Okay, this is a matrix breakout plan, and it's really clever. And you have to put on new eyes to be able to see things differently than you have before. If you're truly seeking to be the best spiritual self you can be, you have to put on new eyes. You have to change your filter. So I can get it's so much more I can present to y'all, and this is so deep. So me and Ernest are gonna, finish putting this together and come before you all. But if I'm wrong, I accept accountability for being wrong. And of course, you all are going to tell me. And I will not delete this video. It will be here on YouTube to be dissected and criticized and by anyone who wants to. And I appreciate the people who agree with me and don't agree with me, because it's helping me grow. And so we just have to realize that light and darkness are both necessary. What we consider good and bad are both necessary. They're necessary things. Pain and pleasure are both necessary. All of these things are teachers. They are life experiences to teach us, okay? And our minds are in bondage. But if we begin to switch our modalities and have more union and unity come together, we can be great again. America can be great again. And this was a huge revelation that came to me. I pondered and I said, maybe we're looking at this just on one surface. Maybe we're being superficial in our dissecting and discerning of what we see happening. Maybe him being in support of America being great again, since we know that he knows his history, could he mean when America was ruled by the Aboriginals, by the people who actually established America, built America, found America? Because technically, America being great again, people say, well, when was America great? We were brought over here as slaves and blah, 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 blah. But there was a time before slavery and America was great. We are the first people placed on the earth. We are aboriginals. There were people here before the Europeans came here. There were people here before the founding fathers came here to create a new world. And is it possible that him saying, yes, America will be great again? Is it possible that he's speaking of before slavery took place? I think it's very possible. And when you look at Black Skinhead, the new slaves, his clothing line, he took raggedy clothes that I grew up wearing because that was all my mom and dad could afford. He took clothes that looked raggedy, had holes in them, and he made it profitable. He made it trendy. He made it fashion. That's spiritual alchemy. That's someone who is revolutionary in their thinking and actually brave and courageous enough to manifest it in the natural realm. That's huge. That is huge. He knew people would be pissed off with him about that, and he did it anyway. And I commend him, because I haven't even got to that point where I'm that bold, brave, and courageous. There are some things that I feel that I do not communicate with anyone because I don't want to deal with the blowback of how people are going to feel about it. Good night, baby. My daughter, she got a whole different view on this. Maybe we'll do maybe I'll put on a video one day and let y'all hear a young person's perspective. She think he's just crazy. But she's entitled to feel how she feel, So yes, I believe that the great again train that he hopped on is before slavery. And when he said slave, when they were talking to him about slavery, and he was like, man, that's a choice. After 400 years, it's a choice. I believe what he was saying, he's not saying that we could have stopped slavery, or he's not saying that at any point in time it could have been changed. It's our fault that we were in slavery for so long. What he's saying is your existence does not have to be determined by your situation. What he's saying is, even though physically you are a slave, you do not have to allow them to enslave your mind and your spirit. It's a choice. You can be in prison and make the choice that even though my body is in prison right now, my mind will not be in prison. And I believe that's what he meant by saying it's a choice. And it is a choice. If you choose, if you're practicing religion, and even though you have had dreams or came across videos or read things or saw synchronicities and numbers, had visions, just a lot of different spiritual things that have happened to you that seem to be by chance, and you choose to continue in your present belief system, you're making a choice. Now, do we have any evidence that religion was used, plagiarized from older origins and used to enslave people? Yes, we do have proof of that. By now, many of us know that, right? But if you know that and you continue to practice it in the form it was given to you, then your spiritual enslavement is your choice. You are choosing through your free will to practice that. And that's what he means. So yes, slavery still does exist today. Yes, I do believe the NFL, the NBA, the music industry, Hollywood, even down to people who get up and go to work every day. I do believe it's a form of slavery. Yes, I do. I also know that we have free will. And that is the beautiful, beautiful thing about creation and who we are. We're really special. We're really special. And that we can make the choice in how we live. Yes, it is a truth that I have sickle cell anemia, but it is a choice in how I deal with it. If I continue depending on the medical industry for my healing, right? Even though I have learned a lot of new things about the medical industry, pharmaceuticals, I have learned that the oath of Hippocrates that they take it really originates from Amenhotep of Egypt. I've learned all of that, and then I say, you know what? But I'm not going to use anything natural. I'm not going to use herbs. I don't want to use crystals. I'm definitely not going to meditate. I'm not going to do any of the things that were used for thousands of years for healing. I'm choosing to be in a system where I have become a physical slave to medication, treatments, and surgeries, and I see no other way to do it. That's my choice. I'm choosing to be enslaved physically by someone who I know doesn't have my best intentions, you know. So I believe that's what he means about that. So it's so many things I could say, but I want to say this one thing before I get to the rest of it. And let me make a note so that when I do the rest of the video, I won't be just saying stuff over and over and over again. But let me say this. If you have on something made by a designer right now, and you know that most designers are not supportive of the Black community, nor do they care about the state of the Black community, yet you still go to Macy's and the store and purchase these designer things, you are being supportive of someone who isn't for your people. How is that any different than Kanye saying, yeah, you know, I feel Trump, I support him? How is that different? If you know that fast food is being used to cause people to be sick and have all these illnesses, to calcify your pineal gland, if you know all of these things about fast food and you're still eating it, you're making a choice to support something that is detrimental to your people. That's the choice that you're making. Let me give you another example. If you know that Colgate and the use of fluoride is dangerous for you and your children, but you're still putting that on their toothbrushes every morning, making them use that, you're making a choice to be supportive of something that is not in support of your people. That is just a couple of the many, many ways that we have become so blinded and deceived by the programming happening. We are divided and we are hypocrites and we practice sectarianism, but will not admit that that's what we are practicing because many of us aren't even conscious of the things that we do. Many of us still don't know the God that we worship. And that was mentioned in the book of Acts. How are you different? How am I different? So if there's anything in your home right now, and you know from Tommy Hilfiger on down how they feel about Black people, and you're still choosing to give them your money, you're still choosing to use those items, how are you different? You're supporting something that's detrimental to melanated races. So I just wanted to leave that with you. And yeah, I think that's it. I want to leave that with you. And I'm going to try to put the rest of this stuff together. If you're interested, if anything I said piques your curiosity, if you want to understand more, or maybe I triggered something in you and you're like, you know, I recommend check out some of the playlists on my channel. I have playlists and they probably have anywhere from 15 to 30,000 videos within all the playlists. A lot of information that I have shared with you today are in those playlists. So you are more than welcome to go and scroll through those to look up some information and to maybe even find your own resources if you would like to. That's fine. But I tried to make it a little easier by creating these playlists because it takes a lot of time and work to research and find this stuff. I'm not going to lie. It's tiring at times and I do have to sacrifice sleep. Sometimes I don't get a chance to eat because I'm researching and I'm studying. You know, and that's just too much is given, much is required. And I feel like I've been blessed with life. I have died twice in this lifetime and have been given a chance again. And so I feel that it is my mission to make sure that I'm using everything that I've been given, the good and the bad, for the purpose of being a blessing and helping other people, for encouragement, enlightenment. And y'all, let's try to be a little less divided. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to speak your truth, whatever that may be. And Trump right now, he's the banner for that. You know, he's like, man, you might not agree with me, but this is how I feel. And I think that's a good thing. I think that we need to go in that direction of consciousness. And there is an infinite war taking place. And that infinity war is against consciousness. It's against true spirituality. And so the more we go back to the roots, we study origins, we study history, not through the filter of his story, the elite's story, but just study it from a natural standpoint, humbled, without any ego, you will be able to discern, decode, and even understand your own dreams and visions better. And so I just want to recommend that to you all. A lot of black people are angry with him right now. And it hurts me to see some of the comments taking place. We felt the same way about OJ. We felt the same way about Michael Jackson when he was being accused of molesting all of those children. We felt the same way about Prince. And, you know, man, he's channeling this feminine and masculine energy. Is homosexual. Is just wrong. You know, throughout the whole history of consciousness and the spiritual awakening and time repeating itself. But we don't have to keep letting history repeat itself. It's a choice. And we can say, you know what? I don't agree with that. I might not support what R. Kelly is, being exposed to have done, or what Bill Cosby has done. No, I'm not supportive of any of that. But those men did accomplish something. And I can acknowledge that accomplishment. And I can throw away the part of that I feel is defiled or corrupt, right? That's a choice, and that's wisdom. It is wisdom. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, glean what you can to learn what you need to become the person you know you desire to be. And you are responsible for cultivating and nurturing that soul so that you are having a harvest that's good and beneficial. But if we continue to be divided and tear each other apart, we can support each other even if we disagree. We can speak loving to each other. We can express how we feel about each other's views without going off into the low frequency, the low vibration of being mean, rude, and negative, and judgmental, and hypocritical, and operating in spiritual pride. That is something that we probably are all guilty of at some point in our lives. And man, it's time that, man, that's over. We got to come out of that. So, try to just walk in love. And walking in love don't mean that you don't acknowledge injustice and justice and right and wrong. It just means that you're going to operate at 520 megahertz, and 432 megahertz, and you're choosing a frequency that allows life to thrive. And you can still be honest about how you feel and express your views and your opinions and your beliefs. But we don't have to be divided. We don't have to tear each other down. And we don't have to be negative, critical, condescending, all of those things to each other. It's time out for that. And even if you don't agree with some of the things that I have communicated with you here, one thing I know for sure is the path of spiritual enlightenment that's taking place. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Even in the parts of it that's dark, it's beautiful. It's necessary. And this is a great time to be living in. Be thankful that you were chosen and called for a time such as this. Don't cheat yourself by living in a box. It's okay. You climb up and peek outside that box of what you think is right and wrong and what you know. And you will be surprised at the beauty that you find outside of the box you have been existing in. All right, y'all. I'm going to read your comments and stuff after you all post them. I'm so tired. I need some sleep. I've been up just trying to make sure that I brought this information to you all, without any motives or agendas, and just as pure and accurate as possible. So I'm going to read your comments. I'm going to try to respond. And if you want to communicate with us in a more private manner, just inbox us. The email is remnantsgathering@gmail.com. That is a new email that we're using. We're in the process of putting together a lot of new stuff since the spiritual path has led more to metaphysics than we were expecting. because we don't want anyone uncomfortable, and nor do we want to get in the way of someone else's path. And if that's not where you are right now, we don't want to have you on the email list sending you stuff, and you feel like it's getting in the way, or you feel like it's evil or wicked or whatever it may be. We don't want to do that. We don't want to impose. And I think one of the most wicked things that people can do is trying to force people to believe things as they believe them, and telling people that if you don't believe it and see it this way, you're going to be damned for eternity. That, to me, that's just something a truly spiritual person doesn't do. A true spiritual person, if they're really a spiritual person, and I'm speaking of you too, and if what you believe is right, then you can take your power and your spirituality, and instead of condemning someone to eternal damnation because they see it different than you, as a spiritual person, you can go in your prayer closet and uplift that person, pray for that person to have a breakthrough. So that's a choice as well. How we deal with everything happening, it's a choice. What are you choosing? What kind of reality are you creating? What kind of seeds are you sowing? It's going to determine what you reap. All right.